Hello there, and a big warm welcome to this demonstration of the BlueVenn Customer Data Platform. If you haven't been on one of these sessions before, then just to give you a high-level overview, the session will last about 30 minutes, including questions. It's set to be a really high-level overview of the software. So if you did want to book in a one-to-one consultation with one of our consultants after the session, then please feel free to do that with us. Like I said, we'll be taking questions, so send those through throughout the session and we'll get to any that we can at the end, and any that we don't manage to cover during the live session we'll answer by email. So we've got Matt Diamond, who's one of our consultants at BlueVenn, here running the session for us. So Matt, thank you very much for joining us.
Hi everyone, hi Jen, thanks for having me.
If you're ready, should we jump into the session?
Yeah, let's go for it. So I think just to really kick off today then, I wanted just to take a look at a couple of the key challenges that organisations have when they're looking at how to work with their customer data. And I think putting this in a really simple way, the number of data sources and the number of channels that any organisation is using, it's always expanding, and this expansion is becoming more and more rapid. And we can see this very quickly if we just take stock in our own minds of the number of ways that customers can actually interact with an organization, whether that's through offline conversations and purchases, whether that's browsing the website, buying something through the e-commerce store, or just sharing a particular product across a social network, for example. What this really means is that the typical marketer has got a number of problems, but the two chief ones among those is the fact that they have to firstly dig around through a lot of different data sources before they're able to just answer really, really simple questions about what's going on within the organization. But they also have to be able to spend significantly more time than ever before managing channels, managing all of those different interactions, and being able to cater for how all of those interactions actually coexist across all of those channels as part of that coordination approach. And I think really a CDP is really about seeking to remove, or at the very least, to greatly reduce these problems by actually unifying those many different sort of disparate data relationships that a business has with its customers, and being able to actually bring all of that data together. And when we think about this in sort of the main way, is the fact that we can split this into two areas, data and channels. So let's take data first then and sort of start from there. So the list that we have on screen here, this really represents the most common data sources that we at BlueVenn see. And this represents a lot of the information that our customers are seeing through their interaction with their own customers as well. This can range from really simple things like contact information, different interaction events, opening emails, clicking adverts, browsing online behavior, right through to sort of the product details, the different hierarchies for those products as well, and all of the third-party information that is being included. And obviously this isn't an exhaustive list, and it's going to vary by vertical and by business model. But in essence, really what we can see here is it's not down to the business to decide how the customer interacts, it's down to the customer. And like I said, this gives you some idea of some of the data sources that we typically see. Now, the key point to note here is that these critically important sort of data elements, they're all about holding that core information and being able to have all of that information in one place. So those different customer attributes, the facts, the descriptors, the historical customer interactions, they all exist in lots of different locations around the organization. But all that information is really required by the user to actually answer the question of why don't companies truly understand their customers? What's the barrier? What's getting in the way? All of this data is disconnected. It's duplicated across platforms. It's not something that can be easily referenced or used in a single location without a great deal of effort. And in many cases, that's manual effort. That's not automated processes. For every different operation and touch point that an organization has, there's a disconnected platform somewhere that's designed to manage those processes within the channel or the processes for the management of that data. This is down to the different data structures and the different methods of storing the data, the different way of identifying individuals. It's very, very difficult to actually bring all of this information together from across things like ERP, the different channel management products, the website, the different call center systems, product information management, consent systems. It's kind of almost an ongoing list. And the main thing here then is the fact that the first core competency of a CDP is to connect all of these data sources together and bring them together in that coherent, trustworthy, and accurate way. And really, it's about giving the business a holistic view of the customer, their behaviors, their experiences, and their interactions, all in one place. So in essence then, the whole idea of a CDP and its primary reason to exist is to unify all of that data, deduplicate it, and create a relevant view of customer data and all of those different data sources in that single place. And because that view is completely persistent and it's a 360-degree view of all of that data, it allows users to really actually have the ability to manage things like cross-system metrics, cross-system analytics, and provide the ability to trust in the data to underpin some basic and more advanced marketing needs. The basic things being, well, I can trust the data because I know it's accurate. I can build my selections and my key targets off it. I can visualize and report on this data, and I know that I'm not going to have questions coming back to me. But also, when we think of the more aspirational capabilities as well, talking about sort of high-speed behavior analytics, advanced segmentation, predictive modeling, machine learning, things like next best action and different recommendations as well. So once we've actually solved this issue around data, there's a second challenge to really think about as well. And this is where we start to think about the idea of channels, as I've already mentioned. So for every marketing channel an organization engages its consumers through, as we said earlier with data, there's a disparate product designed to manage those different interactions. And really, it's organizations frequently change these products as well. I don't know if anyone on the webinar today has recently changed email service provider, or they're looking at bringing in a new SMS gateway, for example. All of these things, it's this ever-changing MarTech landscape that marketers actually have to deal with. So because each of those different channel interactions are managed in different ways, it's all about, again, it's about how those different channel interactions are stored, how the individual customers are identified. Those channels also, a lot of the time, have their own decisioning tools, and there's lots of different skills required depending upon which of those tools you have within the business. And the big thing here with the CDP, particularly the BlueVenn CDP, is that we strategically fulfill that sort of second key marketing requirement that we spoke about at the beginning of the session. And it's that whole idea of a core competency that essentially brings all of this data together. It allows you to make decisions on that data, orchestrate and manage those omni-channel journeys, do all of this automation in terms of the activation of data, make decisions in real time, and manage all of those data flows. So initially, it's about taking the organization from having many channels and then being able to allow that organization to become a multi-channel organization, and then moving through to actually delivering true omni-channel capability to the organization in question. And the main thing here is it's the ability for the marketer to really gain access to all of that automation and all of those different orchestration capabilities that really allows the solution to deliver a vast number of benefits as well to that particular business. And the other great thing here is it means that customers of BlueVenn are able to actually use their own channels of choice. They can pick which channel vendors and channel products they want to use. They can chop and change at any point in time. And the great thing here is that they're safe in the knowledge that all of the decisions aren't made in the channel, they're made in one central place that manages all of that coordination. So those migration efforts that you've probably looked at historically and said, this is really hard, we're not going to change this because it has too much of an impact. All of those impacts become completely negligible because you have the power to make those changes because you're not managing everything within the channel. What we refer to these sort of pair of competencies as really is a strategy that we like to call X1X. So X number of data sources into a single data layer, a single decision layer out to an X number of channels. It's all about being omni-source and omni-channel at the core of the solution. So I know that's a lot of information to take in, and it's always great looking at these different things and slides. But what I'd like to do is then just spend a moment, just switch over the screens. And I'd actually like to just jump into the product itself, and we can start to take a look around as well. So as I said earlier on, this is about having access to all of the data and being able to work with that data. So here we have that single customer view, that SCV, as you might want to call it. We have all of the data stored at the right level of granularity, and all of the different naming conventions for that data are going to be informed by the data that's provided to the platform by yourself or any other organization that's utilizing the solution. But the other great thing here as well is giving you all of these overview dashboards, giving you insight immediately into what's occurring right across the organization. You can filter this down by different time frames, for example, assign different permissions to different users, so you can expose as much or as little of the platform to them as you feel is required by their particular user role and their job description as well. But I think the first thing I wanted to start by taking a look at is some of the segmentation and capabilities and the analytical capabilities. And I want to start by looking at recency frequency value, or RFM or RFV, however you want to phrase that. And the great thing here is this is allowing the solution to manage the segmentation, but manage it in an automated way. You can see here as I roll back and forward through the different timescales, that these segments are changing size, they're changing shape, the volume of people and customers is changing as that's recalculated. And the great thing here is this is using the definitions of RFV or RFM that are already in place within the organization. But it's not just a dashboard. It's something that's giving us, like I said, that automated segmentation that can be actioned upon straight away. So here you'll see that I've actually got a reactivate audience here. I want to start by understanding who these particular people are and starting to drill down into these 57,143 people that I have within this particular audience as well. Because I've got the ability to use the information that I have in lots of different ways, I can start to use things like Venn diagrams, for example. I can start to look at different things. We could actually say here we want to start looking at things like different product categories, for example. So I can start saying, well, okay, let's take a look here. We can choose one of the categories I have. This is just a sample database. So we could say, well, how many of these people in this segment have bought clothing, for example, as one of our particular product categories? So that gives us that 41,948 as that overlap in the center there as well. But what we might want to do then is, let's just say we want to start taking a look at things like the level of website engagement those particular people might have. This is where we can take pre-aggregated different different ways of categorizing our data as well. We can drop this on here and we can pull this out as well. Just going to pull this in so we can see some of the information a little bit better here. So what we've got here then is we've got a high level of web engagement. And we'll just pop that in there, so we'll label that up so we're not losing track of who we're talking about here. So what we have then is we have 11,178 people who are in our Reactivate audience who bought clothing from us with a high level of web engagement. So that gives us one particular segment here. We have another 3,671 who've got high web engagement but haven't bought clothing. So maybe that's a cross-sell opportunity. Maybe that's another audience we want to look into and drill into a little bit further. We've got 155,000 who have bought clothing with high engagement that aren't in our particular Reactivate segment. So again, straight away, just by overlapping 3 elements of data, we're able to start drilling down and exploring all of these individual people as well. There's so much that we can do within the platform, and there's no fixed workflow that we have as well. So again, if I wanted to just choose to look at this another way, I could actually choose to pull out one of the other analytics tools, for example, start using something like different pivot tables, and I can drill down into the data that I have. So in this case here, I might want to say, well, actually, give me my age bands, for example, for my customers. This could be first-party data that I'm capturing and I'm aggregating to give me this particular view. Or this could be data that I'm purchasing in from a data broker, Acxiom, Experian, CACI, whoever that could be. I can also choose to drop on things like lifetime LTV segments, for example. So this is about giving me another view of all of my customers here. But what I might want to do is just take this particular pivot. I might want to narrow this down because I just want to increase my understanding of these 11,174 customers here that are in the center of our Venn diagram. I haven't got to build another query to do this, or I haven't got to write any syntax. It's just a drag and drop across the 2 visualizations. So it's about taking the data, having a safe place to explore that data as well, and then being able to drill down into how the data is represented and being able to take a look at that information in more detail. And you'll see here that I have lots of different things that I can do here. I can change how I'm exposing the data, so I can pop different heat maps on this, for example. I could even choose to say, actually, I'm working with someone in my particular team who doesn't respond very well to data presented in this way. I might want to choose to present this as charts. I may need to present this as different mixed views, for example. If I wanted to choose to actually export this data in a number of different formats, let's say as an image file or as a PDF that I might want to drop into a presentation to senior management, for example. I have lots of different options for how I can do this and how I can manage this within the platform as well. But not only that, we're not working with just numbers here. We're working with actual people. So what I want to do here is I'm going to take our over 60s with our bronze LTV here, just to give you an example. I'm just going to take hold of those 2,617 people. I'm going to drop them to the bottom here. And you're going to see a couple of different things come up on screen. Firstly, I've got the query syntax at the top here. And this is something that's absolutely fantastic for marketers who are more drag and drop oriented, who want to be able to have the freedom to work with the data. But sometimes they might need to get technical help just to say, actually, have I done this correctly, for example? And more technical users who are familiar with things like different SQL syntax, for example, could look at this, follow the logic. They're not having to export data. They're not having to back engineer things. And it just speeds up that sort of collaboration between marketing, more technical users, BI analysts, etc. as well. But the other great thing here is you'll see that, like I said, we're not just working with numbers. I can get to the atomic level data that sits behind these individuals. I can see exactly who these people are. I'm not limited by a data extract, for example, that I might have if I'm working within a BI tool. I can do a number of different things as well. I can choose to have commonly used data visualizations here. This is just a basic one to give you an idea. I can have a personalized views where I'm starting to actually define how the data is being presented. I can include any number of additional attributes held within the database as well. So I can build out my understanding of these particular individuals. But not only that, as I mentioned about permissions as well, we can also choose to obfuscate data. So you'll see here that the email addresses are going to disappear, because we could say this is the view that we would give to our marketing interns, for example. We want them to be able to see some of the data, enough to be able to conduct their work on, but not so much that we potentially leave ourselves open to issues around data and exposing data to people who shouldn't have access to it within the organization as well. And everything you're seeing here as I'm working through, all of these are savable entities. So I can choose to stop, I can choose to create templates, create reusable objects as I'm working through as well. But not only this, is I also have the ability to work with different inputs, and I can start to use the inputs and the operators you can see on screen here to build out different segments as well. So again, it's another way that we can take the data, we can work with it depending upon our preferences. And just to show you what I mean by these reusable entities, we can take particular selections here, we can reopen them. We can choose to pull those up. We can rerun them. These could be point-in-time segments, so they never recalculate. So we always know who's in an audience, for example, if it's something we want to reuse as a static list. Or we can make them dynamic as well. So we can start to understand how people have behaved today, how that's changed over time, and how we want to include them within a particular customer journey as well. So in this case, we're taking data from across different table levels as well. So I've got sales level data here from across different products, combining that together, rolling this from sales level to a customer level table here, and then feeding this into my output at the customer level. And I'm doing the same with customer level data here in terms of marital status, but also home level, site level data around income bandings, for example, and bringing this together again, managing that table rolling through the data structure to help us create the just over 22,000 for that particular audience. And this is a great thing that we have here, because we can so easily change those table levels as well. So this would be perfect if I want to email each of these individuals, because I know that I can communicate with them on that individual level. But what happens if we choose to use direct mail because it's more suitable for that particular segment, for example? Well, very easily, we could add a quick rule in here as a query, and we can then just change the resolution level to household, so that we're able to optimize what we're doing. Make sure that we're sending just that one piece of direct mail to the lead person in that household. We might know we have a great dwell time for our direct mail and we get great responses if they're a little bit further down the road, so to speak, in terms of timing compared to email. All of this can be balanced, and all of these different things can be optimized as we go through building out our segments as well. And I think the final thing to really show you from an analytics perspective is the fact that we can also then geolocate data as well. We can do this using latitude, we can do this using longitude, zip codes, postcodes, do this using any form of address data that can be made available to the platform, and do this internationally as well. And this really helps our clients who are then able to actually do what I'm doing on screen here. We've got the ability to drop heat maps on top of our particular geographic operating areas that we're working with. We can choose to say, actually, give me everybody that lives within a particular location. I'm actually going to take Southwest London as a particular example here. And this is allowing us to add that geographic element to the analysis that we're doing. We can understand, where our potential high-value customers are, our advocates are, for example, when we're looking to do things like site temporary pop-up stores for different retail events, seasonal things like Christmas or Easter, and different things like that. We can use this. We've had some clients use this for helping them with out-of-home advertising, for example. We have also had different events organisations use this to help sort of draw people in where they've got sort of last-minute tickets to sell, or where they're looking to understand where particular people are going to be interested in particular guests, and really tailoring that message for sort of social media influencer appearances, different celebrities, different sort of offers that they might have as well. There's so much that can be done with this. Like I said, there's no fixed way of working. So you can jump around and to really explore the data using the tools that you've seen so far within the session. But the great thing here as well is that you've seen so far how I can take the data, I can use the automated segmentation, and I can build out all of these different ways of analyzing my data. But then, as we said earlier on, that's great, but how do we activate the data? We're not having to export the data. I'm not going to be sitting here and running a webinar where everyone's going to have to watch me load data into another solution. Not at all. So very simply, a right click and a left click, and we jump. We jump from the analytics and gaining insight, and we can take that insight and make it actionable very, very quickly and very easily, all within that single solution. So what I've got here is I've got that audience again. I can start to add suppressions here, so I can start to manage how many people I want included, different hierarchies, all of these different things that I might want to use as part of my audience and part of my actual communication strategy. What I can also choose to do here, just clear this down just to make it a little easier to see. What we can also choose to do here is to actually say, well, how do I want to work with our channels? What you'll see when you look at this interface, before I explain what's on the screen, is this looks very much like a journey planning tool you'll find in an email system, for example, an SMS platform. And we've done this on purpose. The real thing here is to give users a familiar interface, but you'll see the differences as I go through around, like I said, around the sort of the ability to manage all of those channels in one place. So if we look at this communication step, we're not just talking email here, we're not just talking SMS. We're talking within this drop-down, every single connected online and offline channel being managed in one place. Whether that's through app push notifications, for example, whether that's through real-time website and email personalization, whether that's pushing callback requests to a contact center or to a CRM, for example, whether that's getting your customer service reps or sales teams to follow up in the B2B world, for example, whether that's direct advertising through different DMPs, sort of that retargeting side of things, different email providers, the built-in email capability that's included in the platform, or whether that's using your external ESP that you're currently working with. It's all about being agnostic to which channels that you're using and connecting to each of those as well. Different social platforms, Facebook, Twitter, for example, different SMS gateways, the ability to just do the simple things, output files for direct mail, for example, through a particular FTP drop, can all be managed and automated through here. Rich messaging, voice of the consumer systems. The list, as I said earlier, goes on and on and on and on. So what I'm going to start with here then is the ability to actually use email. So here we just pick which channel we want to use, and obviously all of the different variations and the different attributes that we're picking from here are going to be defined by the channel that we're using. We can choose what we want to use in terms of the creative. We can set the unsubscribe groups and the from addresses and everything else. And we can manage all of the different configuration within here as well, whether that's including adding things like engagement scoring, nurture scoring, for example. So we can manage those lead scoring activities as well. All of this can be done within here. But once we've got this email here, it's very easy to just do those two things. Save it and very quickly you can see if I've got access to the solution, I can come in, I can formulate a strategy, I can formulate a theory, I can use the analysis tools to build out my particular audience, my segment, drill down, find that hyper-targeted audience, and then get a communication out the door to them and start building out my customer journey, or just include them in a customer journey that's already built. So from here, we've got our particular email, we've sent that out, but that's great, batch and blast. Everyone can do that to an extent. How do we actually then choose to make this into a more of a dynamic customer journey that caters for the needs of the customer? This is where we can use all of those bi-directional integrations to different channels as well. And this is where we can start to use that data. I'm going to keep this fairly simple as an example. Like Jen said, it's just a high-level overview. But what we've got here is response data, clicks and no responses. Everyone that doesn't respond within a day, let's just say we're actually going to take those individuals, and we then want to actually be able to say to them, okay, we're going to choose to retarget you through our DMP of choice. And beyond that as well, we're then going to wait a particular period of time. So let's say we're going to wait another 2 days, and then we might actually want to choose to retarget you in another way as well. This is where we can start to bring in social media as well as just sort of broader ad retargeting online as well. Start to become even more targeted as we go down that approach to really drive them. All we're trying to do here is drive them back to that inbox. We can link them to another canvas like we can see here that's designed to cater for that journey, to push them back to the inbox as well. And this is the first step of allowing us to build out those customer journeys, because customer journey is just a series of campaigns when we really think about it. But the big thing here as well is about what we do with the data in terms of the clicks as well. So how do we affect that positive pathway, as I like to call it? This is where we can start to do different things. We can start to use things such as different predictive models. So in this case here, I'm going to take a particular predictive model. This could be something based on a different next best action outcome that we're working with here in terms of understanding what the next best thing to do is, or it could just be a slightly more simple propensity model. So I'm going to take a high value customer propensity model. I'm going to say, give me anyone who's over a 70% likelihood to be a high value customer, and we're going to do a couple of different things with them. I'm going to add a particular yes-no split here as well, because I want to understand here, I could set this to say, well, give me the permission to tell me who I can actually send posts to. If I wanted to use direct mail, and everybody I can send that direct mail to, that's where I can start to configure this here. I can set this up and I can say, well, actually, that's giving me my drop to my particular fulfillment house. That's the data I want to use within here as well. And again, we can link them out to different areas here. Just take the different links and we can drop those out. But for everybody that we don't have permission to use here, we can actually say, well, this is where we're going to send them the same thing, but we're going to use an email in this particular case here. We've sent them particular offers, and we can choose to just continue to build this all out. We can choose to send them different things within here as well. There's so much that we can choose to work with in terms of the creatives that we're using, and we can then link them to another journey as well. So this is, again, it's all about being able to build out those journeys and manage that sort of customer experience as well. But for everybody here, what happens if we've got customers that don't fit into our sort of potential high value customers for our email and for our direct mail? We're not quite sure what to do with them. How do we optimize this? We don't want to necessarily sit here and sort of manually manage that sort of test and learn approach. We can do, but we may not want to. We might want to be doing something like including multivariate testing as well. And the great thing here is I'm not just talking about multivariate testing in terms of single channel. I'm not just talking about testing 3 different subject lines or 3 different creatives. What I'm talking about here is the ability to test multiple channels and multiple channel combinations as well. We might want to test email versus SMS versus a combination of SMS and email. And we might want to automate the deployment of the winner, because it's all about actually getting that engagement and providing what's best to the end customer as well. It's all about that experience. So like I said, the solution has the ability to manage all of these different things and manage all of that coordination all in that one single place. But once we've built all of these different communications and customer journeys and built our strategies out, we're engaging with our customers, we're engaging with the clients, we're seeing those responses, the orders and the sales coming in. Well, we've got the next part of it, the next part of this to actually manage as well. how do we actually prove the value of what we're actually delivering to the organization as well? This is where the built-in attribution for the platform really helps. It allows organizations to step outside channel-specific attribution, really be able to use this and all of the other reporting dashboards available in the platform to test, learn, iterate, and prove the value of everything they're doing. What you can see here, I've set this up just to manage purchases. This can be any sort of outcome you're looking to attribute against. You've got the contributions as percentages, the number of purchases, the total revenue, and then the average revenue that each individual purchases is bringing to these particular customers in this particular organization here. Lots of different ways that we can present that data. We can drill down into the specifics of individual models as well, or we can just look at the overall view. So there's lots of different things that we can manage within here as well. There's also loads of different ways that we can integrate with different BI tools. We can embed these in the platform. There's so many different things that allow you to actually manage the data and work with the data as well. So that's kind of the way that we can take the channel side of things and we can start to work with that information. We can start to look, once we fix that underlying data issue, how we can then activate that data and utilize it across the business. But let's just take a step back then as well, just for the last couple of minutes we have within the platform, and just take a look at actually creating that particular record as well. So I'm just going to quickly jump across here. And what we can see here is a golden record example. So here we have an example here for a Mrs. Rebecca Johns. And this is the data that's underpinning everything we've just done. It's these particular records that allow us to associate all of the information that we hold on Rebecca and every other one of our customers to conduct all of the activities that we've just conducted, from analysis right through to attribution and communication. So what we have here is we've got some personal information, PII held on Rebecca, date of birth, gender, first name, last name, etc. Well, contact points, we've got the householding taken care of here. Big thing here though, firstly, is this global unique identifier. This is that persistent key of the data, because everything about Rebecca and every other one of our customers is going to change over time. Rebecca could go from being known as Rebecca to Becky to Becca. She might change her name if she marries or divorces. Everything about her is going to change. Potentially even her gender, all of her attributes are going to change, apart from her date of birth, and that's not unique enough to be able to key the data on. That's where the assignment of that global unique identifier is really, really important. And it's unique because it's not relying on a particular channel as well. We're not sort of using primary email addresses or phone numbers or cookie IDs or tags or Google IDs, Facebook IDs, for example. So everything that happens within the channel is completely separate from the ability to identify Rebecca or anyone else as an individual. But not only that, all of the ability to actually understand the referential integrity of the data as well is catered for here through what we call the source URNs. If I've got one source here, if I had 10 sources, I'd have 10 URNs. It's all about understanding where the data's come from, being able to trace that data back from that golden record right back to the source system that's provided it as well. The other really important thing here is that the solution also has the ability to present things, as you can see on screen here, different views of data. In this case, this is actually a subject access report for Rebecca under GDPR. And the great thing here is this is an automated process. There's no more sitting with IT or technical teams and saying, guys, we've had a subject access request come in. I need you to drop everything you're doing, and someone's got to go through all of the different data systems and find all of the data points on Rebecca. The solution's found all the data points held on Rebecca already. And because of these different source URNs here, we can tell you exactly where the data has come from, making that job a lot easier as well, understanding where that data lives. And it's all been date timestamped, all linked to individual profiles here. You can see all of that information. So it's really about minimizing that manual work and allowing the solution to make marketers a lot more independent and remove that reliance on different teams as well. So lots to really sort of take in. Obviously, I know this is a high-level overview. And Jen, I noticed we've had quite a few questions as well. So did we want to spend the last few minutes that we have just taking a quick look at those as well today?
Yeah, I am conscious of time. So what I've done is I've selected actually one question that I think we should be able to cover now. The rest we'll take offline But this particular question that I've chosen, we get asked a lot, which is why I think it's important that we cover it before we pop off. But thanks very much for staying with us. So this person has asked if they need a CRM to use a CDP. And I know there's loads of confusion around CRMs and CDPs, if you can have both of them, if you need one to have the other. So Matt, if you could cover that, that would be great.
No, absolutely. So I'll just take this to the most simple way possible. You do not need a CRM to be able to utilize a CDP. That's kind of the simple way to put this. The whole idea of a CRM is the fact that you're managing, we typically see CRMs come in when we've got businesses that have services, or where they have, sort of more in the B2B space, or they've got customer services teams. There's a lot of synergy between a CDP and a CRM. CRMs are great systems for actually managing the operational side of the relationship, but a CDP has a lot of ways that it can benefit CRM users. Taking the data from the CRM, cleansing that data, managing that matching, merging, deduplication, all of that data hygiene, helping to actually remove all of those duplicate records in the CRM system and provide clean data that's actually completely accurate back to the CRM system as well. So there's a lot of value in having both in the organization as well. So it all comes down to the individual use cases, but no, you don't need a CRM to be able to use a CDP, and they really do complement each other as an investment as well in both B2C and B2B spaces as well.
Awesome, thanks very much, Matt, and thanks for sending that question through to us. So we are going to answer the rest of the questions offline, but thank you very much for joining the session today. As I mentioned at the start, this is just a high-level overview. So if you want to book in a one-to-one demo with one of our consultants, then head to blueben.com and you can fill out one of the forms on our main page, and we'll organise that for you. Under the resources tab, we've also got a load of great case studies and a load of ebooks as well. Recently, we actually launched a new one on attribution last week. So if that topic takes your fancy, then definitely recommend having a read of that. And lastly, we have recorded this session. So if you want to catch up on any of the content, then all registrants will receive the recording within the next 24 hours or so. But thanks very much again for joining us. Thanks, Matt, for presenting, and I hope you have a lovely day.